Hello, wanted to cover some things that I thought were important that a lot of people don't seem to know about in terms of pre-patch and all the Dragonflight talents that we've now started playing with. I'll have them in the timeline below, and it should be on the left as well, so you can skip to the ones that you want to learn about. Pretty simple naming convention, but I will be talking about things that you might not know, like for instance, Phoenix Flame still spreads Ignite. So, spoiler for number 2. There is a bit of a misconception that Fire Blast only spreads Ignite if you have Master Flame talented. That's not true. If you look at your mastery, you can see that it says Fire Blast causes your Ignites to spread to 4 nearby enemies. And now I'm going to put up the kind of way that it spreads, which will just be explained from Toe Grinder's Fire Mage guide. The thing that I want you to understand from this is that if you have the normal Fire Blast spread, so it spreads to 4 more targets, if you're in a pull with more than 4 targets, say 6, you can spread Ignite to all 6 of those targets because it prioritizes the targets with the smallest overall Ignite damage remaining. So you don't necessarily need Fire or Master Flame, especially because of Phoenix Flame spreading Ignite, which is the next point. And this is just a good way for you to understand how Fire Blast spreads Ignite, because it's also one of the reasons why Flame Strike is very much not prevalent in the AoE rotation anymore, unless the mobs die very quickly, though that could change with differences to the APL. To give you an example of Phoenix Flames spreading Ignite, I built up a little bit of Ignite here. You can see it's ticking for 2.5k. We have Phoenix Flames, and that's ticking for 2k, which is 1.8k, which is more than just Phoenix Flames would do. And if you need proof of that, I'll wait for this Ignite to drop, and then I'll just Phoenix Flames. And as you can see, it's ticking for 200. So Phoenix Flames still spreads Ignite. I've been told it is still up to the 8 target cap, or not target cap, still works like the Fire Blast Ignite did, I assume. But it's up to 8 like it was in Shadowlands. So the third thing that I want to cover is Master Flame. Of course, this lets your Fire Blast spread Ignite to up to 8 enemies, following the Ignite rules that I showed earlier. During combustion, the part where it says Ignite deals 18% more damage while combustion is not active does not dynamically update. And what I mean by that is, when you exit combust, your massive Ignite that you built from there, that combust, does not suddenly start doing more damage. This only applies to future generation of Ignites when you're not in combust. So this has a lot more value when you're not having a high uptime on combust, which right now we do with our high stats and the Season 4 affix. So this is more valuable for spraying Ignite to 8 enemies per Fire Blast in combust, but that can be gamed a little bit using Phoenix Flames as like new targets come in. If you are reaching that like 8 target count, for instance, in my Iron Docs video, I believe I mentioned I should have used Phoenix Flames earlier when the Wolves came out on the 3rd boss. So that's like the way that you could play around that, because Pyroclasm is a very strong talent and Kindling is a very strong talent. You don't really want to give either of these up in Mythic Plus to take Master Flame in pre-patch. In Dragonflight, you'll always have it, but we're talking a little bit about pre-patch here. Now, I don't really have footage of this because I'm not sure what footage I would use, but to mention Time Anomaly, just to give you an idea of how this works, because it's kind of important, there's commas, so you either proc one of 3 things: Combust for 5 seconds, 1 Fire Blast charge, or Time Warp for 6 seconds. Each of those is an individual proc, and they cannot proc while that buff is active. And what I mean by that is, if you're in Combust, you cannot get Combust duration. You would instead proc either a Fire Blast charge or Time Warp for 6 seconds. And if you're in Time Warp, you cannot proc Time Warp for 6 seconds. So if you're in Time Warp and you're in Combust, the only thing you can get if Time Anomaly procs is a Fire Blast charge. The thing that makes this a little bit more interesting is it works off of the Time Warp buff. And so what that means is, if a class Lust that's not a mage, you can still proc Time Warp from Time Anomaly. If you have Bloodlust on, like the active, or Fury of the Aspects from Evokers or Primal Rage from Hunters, you can still proc this 6 seconds of Time Warp when your Time Anomaly procs. And if you do proc that, what it does is it gives you a mini Temporal Warp effect, where you have 2 lusts active on you at the same time. So it's like 70% increased haste instead of just the 30%, because haste scales multiplicatively. Anyway, that's not important. Basically, if you're running time anomaly, it's probably worth it for someone else to lust for you, or at least that's kind of a cool interaction if someone else does that's not a mage. You can have that massively increased haste for a window if your time anomaly procs. So, and then I'll put up the rules here for Pyroclasm usage as they were in Shadowlands. It should be the same as of right now going into Dragonflight from my understanding. So this is going to be how you're going to want to use Pyroclasm as you're playing it with keys and pre-patch. And then I'll have a rotation right after this just where you can watch that happen. Alright, just to give you an example of how to use Pyroclasm, I'm just going to do a combust and then a little bit after that. So I'm just going to fireball and simulate getting at least 1 stack from your fire starter. Here I have 2 stacks, so I'm just going to use this so I don't overcap. Normally you would probably shifting power, but I have enough fireball charges that I didn't feel like I needed to. So I'm just going to get rid of my fireball charges really quick and then shifting power. And we're holding this Pyroclasm for SKB. I probably didn't need to Ice Nova there. You just do it if you can't fit a Pyroblast into your Combust at the end. Okay, what's your double Fire Blast here? Shifting power. And then here, again, I'm just going to use one of these so I don't overcap. And then we're going to try and build to an SKB. I could Searing Touch here, but I'm not, just because that's not the realistic thing. I actually missed this Pyroclasm because I don't have a timer here. So put a timer on your weak aura. That's what I'm going to do soon. Anyway, thanks for watching. That was a bit of an example. As you can see, most of the time it will end up just lining up with your SKB proc if you do proc 1, especially with how often you're in Combust in Mythic Plus. It should be pretty easy to line up most times, and if not, you basically just cast it if the proc is going to expire. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. Leave any questions, comments down below.